I'm Massi Hannula. I like to call myself a lab designer and organizer of Ropecon. And I've been making my share of mistakes in my life in role-playing games. Believe me, it's plenty. First of all, I want to tell you a little bit about this concept. It's mistakes we made in lab that in Nordic conference Knutepunkt Solmukohta Rasmus Dahl from Denmark made. And it's a concept where we are laughing to ourselves. Mostly when I'm talking about my mistakes, I'm laughing at me. But it helps me to laugh at myself when you laugh with me or at me. Mostly at me, I think. But it's difficult to laugh at yourself when you have been making a mistake. But it makes it so much easier to understand it by yourself when you're helped with laughter from other people. So let's do the laughing nicely, don't we? The tradition would be that, you know, I should be having a beer or an infernal hangover to run this, but as we are in Ropecon, and this is not held in Keltsu, I'm sober, and not with a bad hangover either. And, you know, I'll be running around, so that's it. So, why do we need to share our mistakes? Inventing the wheel again, it's really not cool. Whatever we do, role-playing games, board games, LARPs, it's really not cool. And the shame and your participants or players wondering what the fuck is going on, that's really not nice either. And when we do share our mistakes, oh, I fucked up in there, or fucked up in there, we will sort of understand why something didn't go exactly as planned. Well, what are the mistakes we make? I promised in the description of the program to tell you a few mistakes, you know, the standards we make, and maybe share some of my own. We do not care. Well, we have this great idea, and we think it's fantastic. But we, from time to time, don't think that how other people would feel about it, and do they think it's going to be fantastic? Easy way to solve this would be, for example, test your idea. And I just want to tell you a short story how we did not test our idea. We had this lab with Ville Takanen. We were organizing Perintö Inheritance 1963 a few years ago. And we built this fantastic secret door. Nobody knew it was there. It was so fantastic. It was proper secret door. You couldn't see it was a secret door. But in the game, then the door opened. Well, we opened it a little bit like it would be, you know, cool, and players didn't notice. They were doing everything else. Then we opened it a little bit more. There was a little bit smoke and light coming out. Nothing. Then we opened it even more. Nothing happened. The players were not guided. We didn't test this. You just couldn't notice the door. So we needed to go to the players. I went as a character in and went like, oh, look, a secret door. And yeah, then action happened. But if we would have been testing this with a person who, you know, would not know that there was a secret door there, we would know this beforehand and been saving a few hours of game time in the proper way. Well, we do not ask. You know, we don't ask the questions like, how are my players going to think about this? Is she going to find out this information by herself, like using Google? Or should I tell this to her? You know, there's these small things like in lab, you have a great location, let's say an old battleship in Sweden, and you have a sleeping area somewhere else, which may be a hostel, and there is few kilometers walking between, or something like that. And you forget to tell the players how to get from the place A to place B. And end up with players going around in Stockholm, having fun, yeah, but not finding to the hostel or to the game area. And, well, that might end up embarrassingly. Then we do not share. I like to share things, but when I have a great idea, I want to keep it to myself. It's my idea, you can't steal it. Well, if you feel like that, I've been learning, talk to your mom. She will not understand what you're talking about, it's role-playing games and stuff, but she will ask some very obvious questions. I made this fantastic mistake myself last year when we were doing a promotion for Ropecon in the library for children. Children were from 5 to 9 years old, and I made this fantastic treasure hunt lab. The lab tips to find the treasure were written in the nice paper by hand, and scripts and stuff. And the children were going around finding the scripts, papers, stuff. And I found they don't know how to read. That was embarrassing. And the children who did not know how to read were even more embarrassed and crying. And I felt quite horrible. And I learned a lot. And then I was talking with my mother afterwards. And she was like, you should have been sharing this with me, telling me, I'm making this lab. There's these written things. It's from 5 to 9 years old. And she would have been saying, children learn to read at school at 7. So please do share too. And now we are sharing. My first guest, we all know him from his famous way of speaking English, but his achievements include also an international lab dragonbane. Please welcome Timo Multamäki.
Thank you. So, as many of you might know, I have made my share of mistakes. It's been more than one. No surprise there, I guess. I have decided that I'll go with a couple of most memorable mistakes that I can still somehow maybe learn from. First is not to take things literally when you can avoid it. We actually rented a hotel years ago for a LARP. And when was the time to pay the hotel? Well, I don't know if you have ever rented a whole hotel, but the rent is actually quite substantial. I think it was 120,000 Finnmarks back then. And we asked, how should we pay? And they said, in cash. Well, probably they didn't actually mean that. But we actually took that fairly literally. I went to the bank. And somehow I still feel like, this was a smallest mistake. But I said that I need to withdraw 120,000 Finnmarks in cash right now. And in the bank, they didn't have that much money. So it actually ended up that they gave everything that they had, and they had to actually ask a courier to bring me more money. And then I had a huge plastic bag full of money from Valintatalo. And I walked to the hotel, and they said that, okay, are you ready to pay? Yeah. Here it is. Would you like to count? And you should have seen their face. Don't take things literally. Okay, well, I have a couple of other mistakes as well, and as there seems to be time, I'm sharing you also a small particular mistake on shipment of board games. That can go wrong in so many ways. and I think I tried that with one board game in a way that it failed in every possible way. I ordered a shipment from China. That was the first mistake. I prepaid that. That was probably the second mistake. Then I also predicted that it would actually arrive. That was also a mistake. Well, let's cut the long story a bit shorter, and in the end, when they actually told that now we have sent your shipment, conveniently located somewhere, I was like waiting for it in Helsinki. And then time goes, and then they informed that it's now in your closest harbor. Well. Doesn't Helsinki have a harbor? Mm-hmm. So where is it? It's in Los Angeles. And why is it in there? Because there is Helsinki in Oregon. Chinese mapping, yes. And when I actually got that in the proper Helsinki harbor in Finland, in Europe, they actually told me that there is slight discrepancy with your shipment. 64% of your shipment is broken. Interesting. And did I have an insurance? No. And how did it happen? Well, someone had decided that board games are best to be placed as the lowermost thing in the whole container. And what was on top of it? Bolts and nuts. Extremely helpful. Yeah. So next time when you do shipments, ensure, know what you order, where you order, and still expect that it fails spectacularly. I might have one more, and time for it as well. I have done, as Massi said, also a LARP. Actually several, but let's concentrate only on this one that one could call failure in, well, more than one way. Dragonbane had, let's say, more than small share of mistakes. One of the most spectacular one was concerning allocation. If you are intending to do an international game which is supposed to be the coolest thing ever, I think you should have a game location. And when you do scouting of the game location for a year and find just the perfect place and notice that it's in a country where no one wants to go, you should have maybe done a little bit more of the background work. We ended up finding a nice spot with Mike in Estonia. But we also found out that no one wants to go to Estonia, especially not to LARP. Not even the Estonians. So maybe that failed a bit. Similarly, when we were having this huge fire-breathing dragon, which was supposed to have this and that, for instance, moving head and facial expressions and whatnot. Well, it didn't quite happen. It turned out to be, well, barely moving with head welded into one position. And I really mean welded with an external support skeleton, because someone had done small miscalculations concerning the weight of the head. Because the weight of the head was something like a weight of a small car, which might have been slightly too much for a neck of 4 or 5 meters long, made out of steel. But I think that the most important thing that we learned was that if any of you has ever an inclination of moving a dragon, that involves so many mistakes that you can avoid by just listening a couple of small hints. First of all, don't transport the dragon. It's really freaking expensive and it has so many things that can go wrong. How many of you have ever heard like a ferry that would actually fit 22-meter long dragons? Yeah, they exist, but they are freakingly expensive, and you know, you need to have all sorts of special licenses. God forbid they didn't ask us to have a license for dangerous animals, but certainly they did ask for all sorts of other possible licenses. And in the end, when it arrived, after we have heard from radio that the road to Älvdalen, mid-Sweden, is blocked by a dragon, after we had heard that this sort of small incident has happened, we were told that no, the dragon is not exactly arriving. Why come? Yeah, well, it's too high. There is a bridge in between. So we had to reroute the dragon. How do you make a U-turn with a 22-meter long dragon? Not exactly easy. And it was already late. All the players had been expecting that for a day already. And then how do you tell to the players that, yeah, well, it comes tomorrow because it had to do a U-turn?
Should have made it fly!
Yeah. But that's, I guess, my share of mistakes this time. Thank you for laughing to me and with me.
Fantastic. Now we give the turn for a man who is a love writer, producer, and game designer. He writes about teenage lesbian love and fills up rooms with flour. Juhana Pettersson.
Okay, thank you.
That's one of my mistakes.
Yeah, I have made a lot of mistakes when I have made role-playing games and LARPs, but I think unlike Timo, I've made most of them in the same game, and this is the game. There's plenty of mistakes we made in this game. As you can see, it's made by myself, by Mike Pohjola and Eirik Fatland. It's somewhat ironically titled "I Regret Nothing," the game. And the mistake number one related to this game is the mistake of hubris. Because obviously, it was in 2006, we came together to make an art LARP, and obviously I think we are the best Scandinavian LARP designers out there. Maybe in the world, I think. We thought. So obviously every idea which comes out of our heads is brilliant and just has to be sort of sprinkled into the game and will result in pure genius. And we spent a lot of time coming up with these ideas. Some of them were fun ideas, but quite a little time actually sort of writing or designing the game, because we felt that we could just sort of do that at the last moment, because why not? After all of us had made great games with a lot of effort, so we thought we could also make great games with no effort. Surprisingly, that proved to be not the case. I have some photos from the game here. I can show you. We did the game in Turku suburb of Varissuo because there was an art festival there, which we had as the venue, and a lot of nice stuff. Here's the logo of the game. We got a lot of things for the game from the festival. We got a lot of ideas. We had our own real radio station, for example. We had the logos. We had all kinds of stuff. Unfortunately, one thing we didn't have was players. Here's two, and I think in total we had maybe 7. So I will talk a little bit more about that soon. But one of the problems of our hubris was that we thought, okay, we don't have a setting or characters. We have a radio station. We have an underground ice hockey stadium. I'll show it to you later also. And we have all kinds of stuff, but we don't have a setting or characters. But fortunately, one of us, Eirik Fatland, is the king of Norwegian workshopping, so he has like a 1 hour before the game just to sort of come up with that stuff with the players, while me and Mike are just doing last-minute construction. So at the moment the game starts, me and Mike are not really 100% sure what is actually the story of our game. We had our ideas we had come up with beforehand, but Eirik workshopped that stuff with the players more or less on his own, while we were busy running around the underground ice hockey stadium. There's another mistake also I want to talk about. I call it the necessary zombie. It means that when you make a game, because LARP is a participatory art form, you have to have something people can relate to. I can make an art movie which is completely incomprehensible and it works because people just have to watch it. In LARP, people can't just watch, they have to create themselves. And because of that, they need something they know. Everybody knows zombies, so that's why it's a necessary zombie. In this game, we didn't have a necessary zombie. It was kind of incomprehensible, even maybe to us. And the problem with this kind of game is that if it has nothing that the players can relate to, they can't really play very well, at least. And that's also something you see in the number of sign-ups we found. So nobody comes to the game. It's kind of sad because you get the feeling that the amount of euros and the amount of production we have for per player gets quite high when there's only like 7 people in there. We were very happy for the 7. Without those, we would have had nothing. Of course, we had all those great ideas, but we didn't believe in each other's ideas. That's why I think if that's one of the players, one of the 7, there's some more. But I noticed that I've talked about this game, I've heard Mika talk about this game, and I've heard Eirik talk about this game. And every time one of us talks about this game, it sounds like a completely different game. And that's because we didn't really believe in each other's ideas. Mika, for example, had some great ideas about group design and how it was supposed to work. And me and Eirik spent a lot of time just saying they were bad ideas behind Mika's back. And now that the game is over, I have to say that all of Mika's ideas worked. Many of my ideas did not work. But I think in retrospect, this kind of mechanic in a group of designers is probably very bad. You should have, this is not the kind of communication that creates good games, but this is what we had. One of Mika's ideas was that the game is composed of a couple of groups of people who communicate to each other only indirectly. So they don't meet each other and talk, but instead they send messages. And the process for sending messages is that you ask a bystander, because it was played in a public place, to pass on the message. For this reason, we were suspected of being drug dealers, but I don't really see that as one of the mistakes. That would have been perfectly okay in a successful game as well, I think. But the lack of internal trust and lack of internal communication, I think, is the real mistake. This is one picture about the last mistake. This is another picture of the last mistake. Because we had a lot of cool things. We had the radio. We had this is the parking space of the ice hockey stadium. And as you can see, it's blurred. It's one of the only 3 existing images we have of that space. And when you have all kinds of cool stuff, it's usually a good idea to use it and make it work. And also maybe to document it so that you can show it in presentations like this, that look at all the cool stuff we had in pictures that are actually in focus. And the entire plan for sort of documenting this game was based on me taking a couple of pictures with a really bad camera when I was not enjoying my health problems in the toilet. I had kebab, you understand? We were sponsored by a great kebab place. That was not the place where my problem started. So, and the radio was another thing. We did 6 hours of radio programming. Every player had a radio, they could listen to it. But in the end, it didn't really, I think, play a huge part in the game, just because they didn't really it didn't really communicate that this kind of thing exists in the game. We built it, but it didn't play properly. Except, I will tell you one last thing. Except, we were sort of sponsored in a kind of surprising way by this kebab restaurant, because our radio station needed places to broadcast from. And there was, in our gaming area, there was a kebab place. So I went to the kebab place and asked them, can we put our radio transmitter in your restaurant? And they were very excited to be part of the project, and they allowed me to put it there. But they also play music in the kebab restaurant, and they thought they are doing an art piece in our restaurant, so why don't we tune our radio to the artist's radio station, which they did. So at one point I walk in there, I hear our stuff, and I go to tell them, maybe you don't want to do that, in fact. And they say, no, we support you. An hour later, they had turned it off, because it was not the kind of stuff you want to play in a kebab restaurant. It was Sweet Dreams songs, and then there was some kind of a long thing about necrophilia, I think. And I think as the worst, there were some Lestadian Christian fundamentalist sermons in there. Those things drive away the customers. But still, even after that, they gave us free pizza. So I am fully in support of the kebab place. But I think that's my most mistake-ridden LARP ever. I think often when you have catastrophes like this, it would be easier if the game had been like a complete zero, that there is nothing good in it, and afterwards you think that well, it was useless anyway. But in this game, we had so many cool things. We could have made a great game with those ingredients. The radio, the stadium, Mika's great ideas about game design, all of that stuff. But unfortunately, we didn't. And I think that goes back to the first mistake of hubris, because we thought that we can just sort of wing it without doing it properly. And it turns out that does not work.
That's great. My next guest sings karaoke in LARPs, designs role-playing games where teenage mutants form bands, and located his new game and the keys into his car just 10 minutes before its launch yesterday. Welcome, Mike Pohjola.
Thank you. It's nice to notice that when our friends talk about their mistakes, they talk about stuff that they did with me. I'm just going to be talking about stuff I did alone to my wife. When I turned 30, my then girlfriend Elina gave me a CD where she performed 3 love songs. She'd fixed a studio, persuaded friends to accompany her on the guitar and to record and post-produce the songs. Rehearsed and sung the songs, and even painted the cover leaflet. She has a beautiful voice, and I was really touched and impressed. 3 years later, Elina, now my wife, was turning 30. I wanted to give something of equal value to her, but I can't sing to save my life, except at LARPs, where everybody has to pretend that I'm a good singer. I can write, but somehow a poem didn't feel as meaningful or memorable. A LARP, on the other hand, that's not something she would forget. Indeed. Now, Elina has LARPed a few times to find out what all the fuss is about, but she doesn't have a background in LARPs. We've played some tabletop games together, sometimes run by me, sometimes by others, but she wouldn't consider herself a gamer. She doesn't have a gamer-like view of the world. So I thought she would be really impressed by a low-intensity, pervasive LARP built around her, involving her favorite things. Surely that would be at least as cool as the love songs. Now, Elina is an aspiring film producer who loves Iceland, horseback riding, and the North. So I wanted to create the pervasive LARP around those elements by using the Norse mythology as a starting point. The story would be centered around the 9 worlds of the World Tree Yggdrasil. The game would last for 9 days, 9 worlds, 9 days, and culminate on her birthday. Each day would contain a little riddle thematically connected with one of the worlds. We'd start out with easy riddles and then progress to more difficult ones. First, there would be stuff that she could answer via email, and towards the end, she would have to do some physical stuff, like geocaching as well. The climax on her birthday would involve horseback riding through the streets of Helsinki, a phone call from her favorite Danish and Icelandic actors, and rescuing me from some horrible fate. Stuff like that. 9 days before her birthday, she was really busy shooting a short film and spending most of her waking hours on location. She kept irregular hours because some scenes were shot at night and others at day. All this meant that she was quite tired and stressed, and we didn't see each other that much during those 9 days. It all started with a curious email sent to her from an Icelandic email address. I tried to make it seem genuinely Icelandic by adding little idiosyncrasies, like calling her by her first name and mixing the words is and are in true Nordic fashion. This is the first email. Good afternoon, Elina. I know you are a busy film producer in Finland, but I would like to ask you for your help. I got your email address from a mutual contact here in Reykjavik. As you know, we have a fairly active Alchatru community here in Iceland, and I am definitely a part of that. Most people see it as simply funny old-fashioned weddings and rituals, and for many it is only that. But there is more. I believe some big things is happening right now, and not only in Iceland, but also in Finland. If you could help me, that would be great. You do not have to do very much, but I have to be here, and I need someone who can be in Finland for me. If you are interested, I will tell you more. Please don't tell anybody about this yet, because there are people who are not so friendly. Sincerely yours, Rattatoskur Igornusson. As you can see, I included the don't tell anybody line there because I was afraid that she would just forward the message to me and be done with it. If she'd Googled the name, she would have found that Rattatoskur is the meaning of the squirrel that runs up and down the world tree in Norse mythology, delivering messages. And Ikorni is Icelandic for squirrel, so Ikornusson is the son of the squirrel. That was aimed to increase the idea in her head that it's a fun game. But she's not a gamer, so she didn't Google the name. But instead immediately asked me, hey, look at this strange message that I got. I tried to pretend to be only mildly interested and proposed that she reply via email. Elina is very puzzled and certainly doesn't need the extra stress, but I'm convinced that she will soon find this fun and relaxing. No, this is just the beginning. Eventually she agrees and asks Rattatoskur for more information and also how he got her email address. Rattatoskur soon replied with this. Good evening, Elina. Thank you if you can help me. I know you are a very busy woman, so I hope this is not too much. Right now, the world of the giants, Jotunheimr, is very close to our world. The giants have trapped a man called Gestumblindi, but because Jotunheimr is so close, Gestumblindi has started to appear to me in my dreams. He speaks in riddles, like this. What marvel is it that I saw? 8 feet it has and 4 eyes, and its knees are above its belly. All right, guess now this riddle, Rattatoskur. Most of the time I can answer them. This one was easy. A spider, of course. Gestumblindi has promised to help me if I can help him escape. And he needs to get answers to all these riddles, because otherwise the giants will keep him in Jotunheimr forever. All of them I could answer, but not this one. Maybe you have understood it better. I think the first sentence could mean Finland, some kind of flower or something else. I live where the day can last for a month. I bring love to old men and am the color of snow. I die every winter and am born again in the spring. Nothing like me grows as fast as I do. What am I? Please help me if you can. I know this must seem strange, but please don't focus on that at the moment. We must get Gestumblindi to help us. Yours in gratitude, Rattatoskuri Kornusson. That was way too hard to be an introductory riddle. Especially the idea of having Rattatoskuri give out false hints in the hope of leading Elina to deduce the correct hints by correcting his errors was completely wrong. Where today can last for a month is not supposed to be all of Finland, but Lapland. And in fact, most of the Arctic. Now, the sign designer in the movie set that she was working on happened to be from a reindeer herding family in Lapland and also a gamer friend of mine. So what I thought is Elina would figure out, means Lapland, I'm going to ask that guy. Since he's obviously related to Lapland and knows lots of Lappish stuff. And he would have figured out the riddle out immediately. He also would have realized that it's a pervasive game. Elina, on the other hand, is not accustomed to getting strangers asking for help in solving riddles. In Finland, if you ask a stranger for help, you are either a child or disabled, or your car is stuck in snow. If you ask for them to solve riddles for you, you're probably crazy. So in Elina's view, this crazy person from a foreign land is emailing her with these superstitious questions. Nevertheless, she tried to solve the riddle, perhaps hoping there might be something fun coming out of all of this. Another false hint was some kind of flower or something else. Oh, it's not a flower. What brings love to old men? Some kind of aphrodisiac. And the only things in Lapland associated with, in myths with that kind of power are the Northern Lights and the reindeer antlers. And that the reindeer antlers, of course, are the right answer. I tried to help as much as I could without solving the riddle for her, but it proved too confusing with her already overstressed at work. So she decided to forget it. By the next day, it was clear she was ignoring the rabbit holes I had set up for her, and wasn't yet convinced that she should step into the wonderland I had envisioned for her. I had to clarify for her that this was just a game, and it was supposed to be fun. And to keep up with my 9-day schedule, I had to introduce other story elements. Explaining the game aspects would make her realize it was probably me that was behind it all. So by fortunate accident, an actual accident, I would be at a conference in Tampere, 2 hours train ride from our home. But I had everything prepared for her. We have some mutual friends in Iceland, and I had earlier approached them on Facebook asking for their help. I was in talks with a famous Icelandic actor to play the part of Ratatoskur over the phone, and enlisted the film student Gardar to play a supporting role that would call her and give her a hint. These are the instructions I gave him. Hi Gardar, Elina has trouble with the riddle Ratatoskur has given her, so I need someone in Iceland to call her and give her a hint. The idea is that Gestumblindi is imprisoned by Loki and is contacting Ratatoskur in his dreams to solve these riddles. If he manages to answer them all, Gestumblindi will go free and give us more fun stuff to do. But maybe Gestumblindi has also appeared in your dreams and given you an extra hint. If you could pick up your phone, make sure caller recognition is off, so she won't know it's you, and call Elina. Right now or anytime today would be good. Don't tell her who you are exactly, but just say you're a friend of Gestumblindi and know she and Ratatoskur are trying to help Gestumblindi. And Gestumblindi told you that Elina shouldn't think of plants, but animals. Or maybe not even whole animals, but parts of animals. It could be just a 1-minute call, the shorter the better, as long as she gets the animal hint. If she asks who you are, say your name is Eirikur. Under no circumstances tell her about me. And then tell me what she said. Smile face. That was Gardar's setup. On the train to Tampere, I logged into Ratatoskur web whale and sent the still sleeping Elina the following message to make sure she understands it's just a game. Hello again, Elina. I have more information about our friend Gestumblindi. I said he is trapped by giants, but he told me he's actually captured by the evil god Loki himself. Now Loki is the master of lies, so we cannot trust anything anymore. Anything we know. Not even our own senses. People may not be who they appear to be. Do you have any ideas about Geston Blender's riddle? Thank you so much and have a good start of November. Ratatoskur. I was sure her hard working day would turn into a fun gaming experience and turn my phone off to concentrate on the conference. A mistake. Returning from the conference that evening, I was sitting in the train with two game designers. I turned on my cell phone and noticed that my wife had tried to call me several times. Alarmed that something was wrong, I immediately called her. I think I'm going crazy, she says. I'm getting these really strange and threatening calls and emails. I don't know why they're contacting me all the time. And what have I done wrong? Or maybe I'm just too stressed and it's all in my head. And I really am crazy. She had obviously been crying and perhaps still was crying. I tried to calm her down as best as I could. It's okay, you haven't done anything wrong. What did the messages say? Have you tried to figure out the answers? Now, a piece of advice for you in case you ever have to deal with normal people who are not gamers. When a normal person reads words like master of lies, don't trust your senses, and people may not be who they appear, they don't think, oh, it's a game, cool. Instead, they think, this person is paranoid and possibly dangerous. Or maybe they know something about me and my dear ones that they're trying to insinuate. Now, those are not the kinds of thoughts that make you relax and have a good time, apparently. The lack of sleep and the excess of stress combined with this dangerous paranoid demanding her to answer his impossible riddles was almost enough to drive her over the top. So she logged out of her email and went to work hoping to focus on the shoot and forget all about Ratatoskur and his madness. Which is when Gardar had called her. She had collapsed completely because not only was this a virtual email thing, but this other crazy person who wasn't Ratatoskur but knew all about the whole thing called her. He knew who she was and was obviously calling from Iceland, meaning this wasn't just the ramblings of one crazy person, but it was all true. Loki, the master of lies, really was trying to get to her. And she couldn't trust anyone, and she would have to solve these impossible riddles, which she knew she couldn't solve. It was like a nightmare. She explained all of this in the phone. I went from trying to still save the game to trying to save my wife's sanity without making her hate me forever for putting her through that. After a few unsuccessful attempts of don't take it so seriously, I realized I had no other option. I had to confess. I told her I was behind it all. Thanks for trying, she said. I know it's not true. You're just saying that to make me stop worrying. After all, Ratatoskur had warned her not to trust anybody. And there was no way that I even could be behind this all since it was happening in Iceland and whatever. So I gave it another attempt and explained the whole thing. The birthday CD I'd received, my plan for her birthday, the story behind Ratatoskur's name, Gardar, my future plans for the climax, all of it. Then it finally dawned on her that this Kafkaesque torture that she'd been through was my present for her 30th birthday. So I gave her Ratatoskur's email password and told her to confirm that it worked and then relax. I'd be home in an hour. In the train, I explained all this to the game designers, and they laughed at how bad it had gone for her, but they were also very enthusiastic about the idea of this one-person LARPs. If they want to try running one of their own, I recommend they inform the player about the game beforehand. So when I got home, my wife was already a little more relaxed. I apologized and she pardoned me. And by the end of the day, we could already laugh at the concept a little bit. And the next year, I got her flowers. Thank you.
Thank you, my fantastic guests and colleagues, and thank you all for coming and laughing with us. We are going to do this, or I am going to do this next year too. So if you have some mistakes, or you know somebody who should be sharing their mistakes, just give me a hint by email. You can find me from www from ropecon.fi. So. See you. Thank you.
Ropecon.